Let's talk about playing outside versus playing inside and some techniques for that. Earlier today, I put out a YouTube short vertical video on augmented triads and moving those in half steps. So why don't we start with that, and then I'll explain a little bit why that might be effective for kind of playing outside. So if we play like this. So I've got basically an augmented triad playing four notes, repeating one of the notes, and then just moving it down by half steps. So a couple things. So we'll talk about half steps. So if you do basically two half steps consecutively in a row, in a sense, that's going to be outside, right? Because if you take a major scale, the half steps don't sit next to each other. So that would be a good example of playing outside by playing consecutive half steps and moving through like that. And so the first note of each triad group that I'm doing, like this note, I'll just move that down a half step and then repeat the relative shape of the augmented triad and keep that going, right? So then it's most definitely going to be outside, right? Because I'm starting with this note and going down three notes, right? All chromatic. Now, what's interesting about the augmented triad as far as going outside is that triad is also missing from the major scale. So let's talk about that a little bit. So with the major scale again, if we look at the triads, we have major triads, minor triads, major, minor, and then we get a diminished triad. So if we just survey the different types of triads that I just mentioned, we have the major or the minor, and then we have a diminished triad. So the augmented triad is just missing. It's not in that collection of notes, right? And the major scale is so important for tonality, right? So that's what our whole musical system is really kind of based on. So when we play the augmented triad, we're already kind of getting outside of that sort of system. Now, when we play in, let's say, minor, we will at times draw from scales that will include the augmented triad. So let's take a minor, for example. So if we had if we have natural minor, then we're still drawing from that same major scale kind of collection of notes. But oftentimes when you have a 5 chord, you really always when you have a dominant 7th 5 chord, you need to have a different note included in that. So we would have, let's say, the harmonic minor scale or the melodic minor scale. And both of those do include the augmented triad, right? So that's something to consider as well. And then also, if we talk about the C harmonic major, right, then that's going to have an augmented triad as well. So it's interesting how when you can kind of compare those three scales, the sort of similarities and differences. But I'll kind of leave that for another talk. But the augmented triad can really move you outside of the kind of major scale kind of system, uh, and so that's kind of a cool thing I think to try to do, to work at that. Um, Another issue there with augmented triad is that it's the same intervals, right? So we can draw from other types of patterns that um, may have the same interval throughout. So let's take a look at or take a listen, I should say, to the diminished 7. Okay, now that's another type of sound. It's not a triad, but we could call it an arpeggio, 4-note arpeggio on a B diminished 7. But that is going to be outside of the sound, out of the major scale. So again, we've got that G sharp or A flat. Okay, so that can help also to get a little bit of an outside sound. Now, I was checking out some posts on a Facebook group. I think it's called Theory and Guitar. I just joined it recently, so I've been kind of putting my 2 cents into a few of the comments or questions, and so one of the questions had to do with pentatonic type scales, and I think they were taking like two pentatonic scales, like F sharp minor, if I remember right, F sharp minor pentatonic, and C sharp minor pentatonic, and wondering about combining those, and so it had me thinking about perspectives on scales and inside and outside sounds. If we take a group of notes like F sharp minor pentatonic, and then we compare that to the C sharp minor pentatonic, there's really a lot in common there. So when we have maybe just one note that's different, then you're thinking about really staying inside. So that's sort of the opposite sort of thing. So that we're striving for, at least in this talk. But sometimes you want to play inside. So when we take that, we think about that concept. Well, what's going on there? These are separated by a fifth. So if you go through the circle of fifths with minor pentatonic type shapes, you're just really gradually changing. You're not really changing very much. You're staying inside compared to what the previous scale was. Also, whole steps. Whole steps are not going to get you too far outside either. But I'm talking generally. But if you are looking to get outside with something like pentatonics, you have the half step. You can hear that shift is pretty dramatic. So. And that's something called sidestepping or side slipping. And so you're just taking something and moving in a half step. So you could take a group of notes. Doesn't have to be all 5 of the pentatonic, but you can take 4 out of the 5, and then take 4 out of the 5 from pentatonic that's half step lower, right? And you can go back and forth or shift here and there. So So using chromatic tones, moving by half step. Another thing that will give you a little bit more of a dramatic shift is going tritone away, working for some of those intervals. When you think about the Coltrane, John Coltrane type changes from the Giant Steps album, you know, that is a lot based on tonalities that are separated by collectively an augmented triad, right? So if we played a B, E flat, and a G, and then we assigned a major chord to each one of those, and then we put 5 in front of each one of those, then we get basically all of the chord changes in Giant Steps. They're not in that order, um, but that's kind of an interesting thing as well. So using major thirds, tritones, half steps, those things are going to move you more dramatically to different contrasting type collections of notes. And try looking at the circle of fifths. If you look at the circle of fifths, you can pretty much draw a nice triangle between B, E flat, and G, as an example, right? And in a tune like Central Park West, you can draw kind of a square based on minor thirds, until you get back to where you started. So, like we talked about, the diminished 7 arpeggio, the augmented triad. These are areas to break out of the major scale and move into a different kind of thing. Either break into or move out of a certain tonality and into another, for example. All right, everyone. So a quick talk today. Thought I'd give my thoughts on that. Please let me know how you're doing with these topics, if you do pursue them, in the comments down below. If you do check this out on the YouTube channel at Preference, please like and subscribe. But this is also available on all the regular podcast stations. So hope you enjoy this talk, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a great practice session, and enjoy yourselves out there. Take it easy, and make sure you take care of your hands, and be easy on yourself as far as your progress. Just it takes some time, and it will come together.